boom. And then just the explosion happened. It was just so violent, so loud. I should be goo. Being on Gold Rush was it was a wild ride.
And a group of new miners.
It's everybody!
I've done a number of things in this world that I wouldn't be afraid of, but going onto the mine site was one of the most intimidating moments I'd had in a very, very long time. You're operating a piece of equipment that if you hit a truck, a full-size truck, hit it, you could throw it 50 feet and you wouldn't even notice that you hit it. And if you're about to do something that's kind of sketchy, everyone stops, turns at you, cameras, drones up, going around. So, I mean, aside from the fact of being there and already being scary, there's an extra element of just like, oh my God, 3.5 million people are gonna see this.
Did you ever think, wow, I'm gonna be a reality star someday?
I know, you know, I've actually had a couple really cool opportunities as far because of my injury and the things that I've done. I got to go down. There was a movie called Stop Loss, and it had Channing Tatum, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Ryan Phillippe in it. They played a group of vets coming home and the adjustments that they had to kind of go through. Channing took us out to this one club. It's called Club Ledoux. I'm not sure if it's there anymore or whatnot. I mean, 10 years ago. And we were drinking and we got in a headbutting contest. And he was still filming G.I. Joe at the time, but I ended up splitting his eyebrow right about there. Yeah, and I remember he just like blood kind of started dropping down. I was like, oh God. I mean, that's the type of character that, you know, Channing is. Seeing everything, we got to walk the red carpet, live life as a movie star, you know, for a weekend. And I was like, I wouldn't mind doing this.
And I feel like you know, especially with what happened with your hand and, you know, you're still a bodybuilder. Like how do you do that and not just kind of look at everything negatively?
After I got blown up, you know, I was 22 years old. I remember just lying down, like, you know, bleeding to death and just being like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I remember like we were laying in the back of the Humvee's driving, you know, the guy's got, you know, the gas pedal pegged to the floor, and I'm just saying boom, 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 and, you know, just kind of like realization, like I couldn't really hear anything. I was just, you know, there was just that tone of beep from like my ears, and just kind of staring up in the sky like, wow, what am I going to do with my life? And then so I was really kind of pissed off and really, you know, just like poor me, poor me. And then when I get to Walter Reed, they put me on the amputee ward because I didn't know if I was going to keep my hand. I'd had one doctor say, yeah, you're going to keep it. And then another doctor would be like, yeah, no, probably not. And so I would walk past all these people who were just horrifically, you know, just tattered, you know, missing arms, legs, you know, faces just destroyed. And, you know, one floor below us was the, you know, like people who had traumatic, like massive head injuries. You know what I mean? Like that where you're just like, I realized very quickly that it could be a lot worse and that a lot of the people that I was looking at would trade places with me in a heartbeat.
When it happened, was it just right there beside you and you had to grab it? I mean, what?
Oh, no. Well, so yeah, so the battalion actually went out on a raid. They didn't need the sniper section. So we were like, okay, cool. And it was because it was in the early morning. There were the only 2 platoons that were on the base at that point in time, besides, you know, security. And so we went to breakfast, and it was just eerie. No one was there, and we're just like, okay. And then they were like, you know, you can have as much food as you want. We actually cooked for the entire battalion. We're like, okay. And then so we go back. We think it's going to be a lazy day. The battalion commander had an emergency meeting with the mayor of Iskandarya, which is a town probably about 20 miles north of us. So we go. We have never done anything quite like this before. We're coming back. And we had to go in we had to go out the same way we came in, which is a huge no-no. It's like you don't do that. And when we get down to this point, we had to come to a T intersection. So the convoy had to stop, or at least come to a slow roll, so we could get around. And so we kind of got bunched up, and we were just rolling along real slow. And I remember just kind of looking to my left, and all of a sudden just boom, and then just the explosion happened. It was just so violent, so loud, and my hand is rest along my leg, and weapon right here. And so I just boom, I remember just hitting, it's like, oh my God. You know, like I just got hit with an IED. And then I remember just like holding my hand up, and I was just like, whoa. It starts and travels all the way around to there. And then you have scar marks that kind of go up. So the only way I can explain it to people is like, you know, like a blooming onion. You know how it's like peeled up? Like, so that's kind of how it was. And it was just in sections and pieced up. And so my hands, you know, was just barely dangling.
Oh,
and I looked down, and I just had this huge hole in my leg. And I remember just kind of like, okay. And I remember I could actually like put my almost my fist, like inside. I was like, okay. I'm telling people like, hey, I need a tourniquet. And then, you know, like in the process, I'm like, I'm gonna keep that. I look at my hand, I'm like, probably gonna lose that. Yeah, and then just kind of patching around, like feeling for any other holes. But then like, so my buddies jump in the back and they put a tourniquet on there. And the tourniquet actually hurt worse than the wound itself. The medic comes and runs back, and this guy, he had been there in country, I think, for 2 or 3 weeks. We'd been there for 7.5 months. He comes in the back and just wide-eyed, like, oh my God, and it's just carnage. Everyone's bleeding to death, everyone just blood everywhere. You know, people are screaming, and they're basically like, you know, get in there and do your job.
Yeah.
And so he jumps in the back. You know, I was like, drugs.
Yeah.
Give me something, like this is, yeah. So he has this thing that's like auto injectors, or like big pins. And so they, when you press down, a needle pokes through, and a CO2 cartridge empties the drug into your body. You're supposed to be able to sweep, make sure there's nothing there, then stab. He just immediately just stabs, breaks the needle. And I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, don't worry, I have another one. And I'm like, oh, thank God. So he does the sweep on this leg, and I'm almost like waiting for it. I'm like, and he just kind of slowly takes his thumb off, and he was like, I'm so sorry. And he had it backwards, so he injected himself. Yeah, into his thumb. So I was just like,
what?
Yeah, I swear. And so I was just like, I just sat there in just disbelief. I'm like, yeah, like, do you have another one? He's like, I don't have any more.
So you didn't have anything?
Yeah, so no drugs, no anything like that. So we're basically like,
oh my God.
Yeah, we're going, and our vehicle is just shredded. Normally these things have a kill radius of, you know, about 25 yards in all directions. So, you know, if you think about a football field, just think about, you know, being on the 25-yard line, and from the 50 to the goal, you know, is usually dead. I caught like the secondary cone of shrapnel, you know, because it went off, it was 5 feet from me. There is absolutely no possible way.
Yeah.
I should be goo. I remember just going around like talking to her, like, are you operating? Are you operating? Are you operating? And then finally I went back around at this one guy like right here, and he was like, I'll be there. And I'm like, well, you know, please don't cut my hand off. And he was like, if you wake up without it, you know, don't be upset. And I was like, please don't cut it off. Pretty much had to redo everything from scratch.
To learn how to use your hand.
To use it. And then also, you know, as far as a number of months where my body just atrophied. There was just a number of things that, you know, stood in my way. But because at first I was like, I guess I'm just not going to work out, or I'll do swimming and whatnot. But it just kind of wasn't the same. Yeah. And so I really thought to myself, I was like, you know, there is a way to do this. I just have to find out how. January 2006 is when I was actually, you know, discharged. So it was a number, you know, 2 years that I had where I was just kind of fiddling around and trying to figure out how I could do it. And so, but afterwards I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try and be a firefighter. So I became a firefighter for Riverside Fire and Rescue. It's a little station right outside of Puyallup, Washington. That's actually where like my hand strength actually came back. You can see where like the muscle dies. You know what I mean? You can see where normally you would have muscle.
Right.
And you just don't have it. It almost looks like a skeleton. You know, I'm nothing like special. You know what I mean? Like I came from very modest, like, you know, background. I weighed like 150 pounds when I graduated high school. Like it's just kind of your self-determination, your worth. You know, it's figuring out what you want and how bad you want it. And so that's kind of, I think that everybody has that though. And it all comes down to the mindset, just like who you want to be. And, you know, somewhere along the lines, people, you know, say, I can't do this, can't do that. It's because somebody, you know, they valued their opinion, told them that it was a fool's dream and that it's impossible, when really it's just not. You know, and it just, eventually, you know, it took 10 years to get here on Gold Rush, but it was a perseverance and doing a number of outlandish, crazy things that, you know, eventually I met the right people, and that's just how it works.